Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic weekend. On the docket for today, Minicamp is over. And the next time that the Philadelphia Eagles will get together as a team, training camp at the end of July. So we're going to go through some players who could pop off this upcoming season as 2024 breakout candidates. Our rule here on the show, we're not going to include rookies. I think that doesn't make any sense because we don't know if a rookie can break out or not. So year 2 and beyond, those are the breakout candidates for today's show. And if you're pumped up for the Philadelphia Eagles 2024 season, OTAs the last couple of weeks, mandatory minicamp this week, we got to talk about some football and see this roster take shape. That has me juiced. If you're with me, hit that thumbs up icon right now. Breakout candidate number 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2024, Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle, and the former first-round pick from the draft a couple of years ago, back in 2022. Why I think that Davis could break out, he is a mountain of a man. He is a Goliath. He is one of one as far as his size, weight, and physical attributes. All he needs to do, in my estimation, to break out and to have a career year and to live up to those first-round expectations for when the Eagles moved up to take him on that eventful draft back in 2022, when the Eagles also that night traded for A.J. Brown, he just needs to be in shape. And it's not like his numbers and his production have been awful his first 2 years, but the issue that has remained constant with him is that he hasn't been in good enough shape and hasn't had the stamina or the energy levels sustained to the point where he can be a 3-down player and play more than 50% of the snaps, because he hasn't come close to doing that really consistently his first 2 years in the NFL. But you point back to the production. Jordan Davis in 2022, the Pro Football Focus numbers to the left, and then in 2023, the PFF numbers to the right. Anytime that you're above 70, that is really solid production. And Davis has had an overall Pro Football Focus grade north of 70 his first 2 years in the NFL. As a rookie, overall grade of 71.4, a run defense grade of 71.8, that's supposed to be his strong suit, a pass rush grade of 59.4. He did not have any sacks during his rookie year, and he only played 224 total snaps. He did suffer that ankle injury when it seemed as though he was starting to find his stride, and maybe that stalled his development a little bit as a young player. But then he comes back year 2, and he was in slightly better shape, but it's not like he was in superb shape, and he even admitted at the end of the year he wore down and he got tired. Now, the overall Pro Football Focus grade, 70.5, pretty good. Run defense grade does go down, though, at 62.2, and I just don't understand how that, when you're that size, you can't be better against the run. But again, the Eagles' defense was so bad last year, as we've talked about over and over here on the show, it's hard to gauge which players were good and which players were bad because the scheme was so awful. Pass rush grade of 67.3. He did notch 2.5 sacks, and his snap load did go up to 519. Davis did say that going into mandatory minicamp, he's down 20 pounds. And his key and sole focus this offseason was being able to have more stamina and be able to last throughout the rigors of an entire football season. I also think that Vic Fangio can really help him. Devin White from Minicamp said that Fangio has been throwing a lot towards these Eagles defensive players as far as the scheme. And it's a complex scheme for sure. But given Fangio's intelligence, given his smarts, his football acumen, and the way that he's been able to maximize players, I think that he can do that with a couple of young players on this team. I will also say this about defensive tackles. Sometimes it takes them a couple of years to fully find their stride. Chris Jones right now is the best defensive tackle in the game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think for the last couple of years, he's been better than Aaron Donald. Obviously, Aaron Donald retired, so that can be past tense. But his first year, he played 16 games, only had 2 sacks. Year 2, it went up to 6.5 sacks. Year 3 was the breakout for Chris Jones. when he had 15 and a half. And then I pull up Fletcher Cox's numbers here. He was an interesting player because right from the jump, he had 5.5, then he had 3, then 4, then 9.5. So to have that career year, sometimes for these DTs, it just takes a little while. And hopefully for JD, it happens in 2024, year 3. Breakout candidate number 2, his running mate at defensive tackle in Jalen Carter. Some of you might say, Chase, you're cheating. He broke out last year. Did he, though? Why Carter could be a breakout candidate this year, and what I mean by this is that there were moments in which Carter dominated. I think this year in 2024, he has the potential, he has the talent to be up in that category with Chris Jones as one of the most dominating defensive tackles in all of football, and he could dominate all year long. Not just half of it like he did last year, where he was almost a non-factor at the end of the year, and at points he got benched by Philadelphia. What I like about Carter, what I like about Davis, they have admitted we could be in better shape. They have admitted we can work on our conditioning. Here's what Carter had to say this offseason about his offseason. It's been a lot of conditioning. Really, I'd like to be more conditioned than working on technique because we have all year for technique stuff. We work on our technique every day in practice with our hands, working on pass rushes and stuff like that. But you really don't work on conditioning a lot. But I did more conditioning than I did hand movement and some of the stuff like that. Carter in 2023, very impressive numbers. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 89. A run defense grade of 68.4. So he can make some strides there. A pass rush grade elite at 85.9. He tallied 49 pressures, 38 quarterback hits, 6 sacks as a rookie, but he only played 48% of the snaps. Fletcher Cox last year played 59% of the snaps. I want to see Jalen Carter break out and play 60%. And with that, are we talking double-digit sacks? I think so. And if that's the case, that's a breakout 2024 campaign. Next up, Isaiah Rodgers, the corner. He didn't play it all last year. And even when he put forward good production in 2022 with the Indianapolis Colts, he didn't even play that much. I think this year he could have a key role in this Eagles secondary and have a career year. He's been really good during OTAs, really good in minicamp. He's been getting first and second team reps at OTAs and minicamp. And as you look ahead to training camp at the end of July, I think he could have an opportunity to start opposite of Darius Slay if he continues to play well. And of course, it's going to be battling with some other really talented corners on this team. Kelee Ringo, Quinion Mitchell, I think James Bradbury, not going to be a part of that equation. You look back to what Rodgers accomplished in 2022 before the gambling suspension. The keynote here, 283 coverage snaps. So this is a player who hasn't played a lot in his career. He could double that this year easily. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 82.1, a run defense grade of 75.5, a coverage grade of 81.5. What's weird here, he gave up a passer rating of 106.3, which is really high, but those numbers could be skewed because of the lack of coverage snaps. More to get to here on the show, including producer Chip's top breakout candidate. Stay tuned for that. But let's ask you this. Drop a name down below. Who is your top Eagles breakout candidate for the 2024 season? Today's Eagles Now is sponsored by Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. You can get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. You could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. There's always action on Prize Picks as well. This is the perfect time to try out something new as basketball is starting to wind down. Make sure you can try out esports. You can try out the WNBA with young stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and some OGs like Kelsey Plum and Breanna Stewart. But since the NFL isn't yet here and the NBA Finals are about to arrive, what we like, Game 1, Jason Tatum, more than a half point. That's the special. And a lot of times, Prize Picks will have these specials. Derek Lively, more than a half assist. And then Daniel Gafford, more than 6 rebounds. Win big money, withdraw your winnings. Playing Prize Picks is as easy as what we just showed you. Pick more, pick less. Pick Prize Picks today. Breakout candidate number 4 for the Birds is cornerback Kelee Ringo. 4th round pick of the 2023 draft. The Eagles moved up to take him out of Georgia after he slid down draft boards, after he struggled a little bit for the Georgia Bulldogs that year. But before the season, some people were looking at Kelee Ringo as a potential 1st or 2nd round pick, and the Eagles saw a lot of potential in him, which is why they surrendered a future 3rd for him. Ringo, a mandatory minicamp winner, and an OTA winner to a certain degree because he didn't show up for week 1. He showed up for week 2. He started on the first-team defense. And then at mandatory minicamp, he was getting first-team reps. And on that first team, outside corner, opposite of Darius Slay, making plays on the football, and had good ball skills, showed off the long speed. And the first-team reps, it tells me something. He's getting first-team reps. Isaiah Rodgers, Quinion Mitchell. That means that Vic Fangio is trying to figure out, who do we like opposite of Darius Slay? We might like all of them. And that's a good problem to have when you're that deep at the cornerback spot. But those 3 players specifically, clearly the Eagles are trying to find out more. Last year as a rookie, Ringo only had 116 coverage snaps. So it's difficult to gauge how well he played. I thought he had some good moments on tape. Other moments, maybe he was a little bit lost. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 64.5, a coverage grade 63.8. One thing that sneakily stood out to me about Ringo as a rookie, his ability to play the run and his willingness to make tackles in the run game. He showed off some physicality, and that checks out with the run defense grade from PFF of 73.5. And a big reason why the Eagles took Ringo, some of the physical attributes and the pre-draft testing numbers and the size, the speed, all really intriguing to me. He's 6'1", he's 207 pounds. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, and he earned a relative athletic score of 9.67. Those are the numbers in the green. As for the numbers in the red and yellow, that's the vertical leap and the broad jump. Now, sometimes you want corners who test well in that area because it shows off explosiveness, both laterally and vertically. And sometimes you need that from the cornerback position. But either way, this is a really good athlete here who has been showing off throughout this offseason that 4.3 speed. Because during minicamp, tracking down the football, some pass breakups, and he's running stride for stride with John Ross and Paris Campbell. I know those players are injured a lot. They could still run fast, though. And if Kelee Ringo is able to maintain that speed with those players, that 4.3 speed, it is translating. So these are my 4 Eagles breakout candidates for 2024. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Isaiah Rodgers, and Kelee Ringo. Now I'm going to welcome on producer Chip. This was a surprise to me. I didn't know which player he was going to go with, but I'm very excited he's going with this player. And that is Nolan Smith, the first-round pick from last year's draft out of Georgia, who, without Hassan Reddick, him getting traded to the New York Jets, is going to take on, Chip, a more sizable role. Why do you like Nolan Smith to break out this year?
Yeah, so look, you're going to have, more likely than not, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, you're starting edge rushers.
Yep.
But in Vic Fangio's defense, players are going to be moving around all over the place. And heading into year 2, I think Nolan Smith, after not getting much burn last year, really has a chance to show why he was that first-round pick, right? You know, coming out of Georgia, a very athletic player, a player with a lot of upside, right? Not quite developed all the way there yet, but in the Hassan Reddick mold of that athletic, quick, fast, screaming off the edge rusher. And this season, you know, he's had a year and now a full off season of working with, you know, NFL coaching, being coached up by the likes of, you know, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, a lot of vets on this Eagles defense that can teach him how to use those athletic abilities and turn those into pass rushing moves
Right.
and pass rushing wins and really develop a skill set of moves, counter moves, and all that. I think this year, he might not reach, double-digit sacks or maybe, 15 sacks. I think in his future that could come. But I think we could see this year him get a lot more run and him really be able to show why he was that Haason Reddick replacement, right? Now Reddick is gone. He can step in. I think he has the highest upside of any Eagles edge rusher on this team. Could that come through this year? I think it could. Again, very talented player. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a massive, massive season.
Love how you went with Nolan Smith as breakout candidate number 5. And I like the reasoning behind why he can take that leap in year 2. You mentioned playing time. Barely played last year. You're completely right. 91 pass rush snaps. Had to deal with that shoulder injury. He got that operated on this offseason. And because of the lack of snaps, Chip, it's hard to gauge how well he played. 53.7 Pro Football Focus pass rush grade. He only had 1 sack, 5 hurries, 8 total pressures. But working off of that, what did he say he did this offseason? Got the shoulder operated on, added some weight. And why did we like this pick right from the jump? The twitch, the first step, the bend. And naturally, with more playing time, I think that the game will slow down for him and he'll be able to produce. You look at the RAS score for him in the pre-draft process, a 9.20, but the pre-draft testing numbers were so similar to Haason Reddick. And I think the Eagles had that foresight. We might not have Haason Reddick for 2024. That ended up coming to fruition. So let's take a player very similar. A 41.5-inch vert, a 10-foot broad jump, and at 238 pounds, I believe. Yes. A 4.39 40-yard dash. So this is a player with twitch, who has a lot of quickness, who can be a force coming off the edge.
And look, there's a reason the Eagles were comfortable letting Reddick go and didn't want to pay him all that money. They feel confident. That tells me the fact that they wouldn't pay Haason Reddick, that Nolan Smith can come in and be in that mold and be more productive with more opportunity than he was last season.
Yes, sir. Grade our list of Eagles breakout candidates: Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Kelee Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, Nolan Smith. A, B, C, D, or F. Thanks for watching the show.